Tel Aviv residents react with mixed emotions as the ceasefire brought the first signs of hope in the Israel-Hamas war. Freed hostages were reunited with their families, but nearly 100 hostages remain captive.
הרגשות מעורבים, כי כל עם ישראל וגם אנוכי עברנו תקופה מאוד קשה ועדיין. ליבנו דואב לגבי כל הפצועים והחללים שאיבדו את נפשם למען החזרת החטופים, למען קיום המדינה אולי.
The deal includes the release of 33 hostages over 6 weeks, nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, and increased aid for Gaza. Future phases aim to secure further releases and a permanent ceasefire, though uncertainty looms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu secured US assurances to resume fighting if necessary, despite efforts to advance peace. The next hostage release is set for Saturday, with talks on a challenging second phase expected in 2 weeks.
Israel has released 90 Palestinians from prison on the second day of the Gaza ceasefire. A bus carrying dozens of detainees exited the gates of Israel's Offa prison in the early hours of Monday morning. According to a list provided by the Palestinian Authority's Commission for Prisoners' Affairs, all of those released are women or minors. Israel detained them for what it said were offences related to national security, from throwing stones to more serious accusations like attempted murder. Their release comes more than 7 hours after 3 Israeli hostages were released by Hamas and returned to Israel. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect after a short delay on Sunday morning. Phase 1 will see Hamas release 33 hostages over 6 weeks in return for hundreds of Palestinians being held in Israeli prisons. Phase 2 of the deal covers steps towards a permanent end to the fighting. It would see Hamas release the remaining hostages and the Israeli military fully withdraw from Gaza. The third and final phase covers Gaza's reconstruction, with Hamas expected to hand over the bodies of hostages in return for a plan for rebuilding the Strip.
President-elect Donald Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance were sworn in as the 47th President and Vice President of the United States at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. on Monday. In a bold statement during his inaugural address, Trump focused on national pride, economic revival, and strengthening America's standing on the world stage.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
During his speech, Trump also noted he wishes to forge a society which is colorblind and merit-based. Entering his second term as president, he has promised to sign a flurry of executive orders as soon as he takes office. European leaders are focused on maintaining strong ties with the US, despite concerns about Donald Trump's unpredictable leadership. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the country is committed to its special relationship with the US, no matter who is president.
77 million people. Well, I welcome the election of Donald Trump. We look forward to working with Donald Trump at this tough geopolitical moment.
Meanwhile, Latvian President Edgars Rinkevics said US-Latvia relations have been strong in the past, but there are concerns about climate policies, defense spending, and keeping European countries united.
Es jau esmu lasījis ziņās, un es domāju, to mēs redzēsim šīs dienas gaitā, ka ASV izstāsies no Parīzes klimata nolīguma.
While France wants to set clear limits, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot emphasized the need to protect European public debate and sovereignty from outside influences, including US-based social media platforms such as Elon Musk's X.
U.S. President Joe Biden used the last hours of his presidency to issue preemptive pardons for Dr. Anthony Fauci, retired General Mark Milley, and members of the House committee that investigated the January 6 attack on the Capitol. The decision is aimed at protecting those who have been targeted by Donald Trump in the past from potential revenge by the Trump administration. Trump has warned of a so-called enemies list featuring those who have targeted him politically. Biden used the power in the broadest and most untested way possible to pardon those who have not even been investigated yet. The decision lays the groundwork for an even more expansive use of pardons by Trump and future presidents.
Around 3,000 participants from around 130 countries are gathering here in Davos for the World Economic Forum Annual Meeting 2025. Among those attending, over 300 governmental officials, including 60 heads of states and governments. Those attending plan to explore how to relaunch the economic growth, harness new technologies, and also strengthen social and economic resilience.
We've identified 5 key themes that are critical here. I think first is around reimagining growth and what we need to do, recognizing the kind of slow growth, high debt environment we're currently in. How do we actually break this cycle and take advantage? I think really important here is actually to understand, what drives growth. And this is, we need growth that's basically resilient, that puts people first, it's sustainable, and that this is what we need to, actively think about. It's not just growth for growth's sakes, but actually growth to actually improve people's well-being, their lives, and common prosperity.
According to the latest Global Risks report, the state-based armed conflict is the top imminent risk for 2025, followed by extreme weather events and geoeconomic confrontation.
Yeah, one of the things that we'll be looking at is active commitments that companies and governments make to collaborate around these specific areas. That might be around, the reskilling revolution, around trade facilitation, around developing industrial clusters. And so we'll be measuring our own impact by looking at these concrete areas where people have actively committed to investing more and contributing and working together to advance these common areas.
More and more drivers from the south of Romania and even from Bucharest are traveling to Bulgaria to fill up their cars with cheaper fuel. Romania and Bulgaria joined the Schengen area on the 1st of January. The removal of the border checks has made it easier to travel between the two countries.
Mult mai avantajos. Deci vin din București ca să fac plinul aici, ca să mă înțelegeți. Ca la noi în România este totul scump.
In Bulgaria, both gasoline and diesel are significantly cheaper. As a result, those who are crossing the Danube manage to save more than 50 lei on a full tank.
E o diferență de 1 leu. Spre exemplu, eu alimentez cu 95 cu benzină de 95 și la noi e 7 lei și 40, 7 lei și 45.
Reflectă și în prețurile la mâncare, o să înceapă și acum să crească iar.
In Romania, fuel prices have been rising steadily. Economists say the increase is a result of the government's repeated decision to raise fuel excise duties.
Imagine living underwater, not just for a few hours on a dive, but for days, weeks, or even months. Underwater habitats might sound like science fiction, but they are becoming a reality. This 12-meter long and 7.5-meter wide habitat, called Vanguard, can accommodate 3 individuals at depths up to 100 meters. The larger model, Sentinel, can house up to 6 occupants at depths reaching 200 meters for extended periods, potentially up to 28 days. So here's the big question. Why do we need to live underwater now? The oceanic exploration and tech company Deep says there's a gap between humanity and the ocean.
We can see deep into space, we can see near space, we can observe anything in our airspace on land and on the surface of the ocean. But the one area where we felt there was a large disconnect, not only in that kind of tangible way, but also in a personal way, was between humanity in the ocean. And we thought that that was an unreasonable gap, an unreasonably large gap. And we felt that the importance of the ocean was underappreciated.
So who will use these habitats? The company Deep envisions a wide range of users, from marine biologists studying deep-sea ecosystems to global navies monitoring critical undersea infrastructure. According to Deep, Sentinel is being built using a technique called wire arc additive manufacturing by 6 3.5-meter-tall robots. This method is like a giant 3D printer, but instead of plastic, it uses metal wire to build the structure layer by layer to make sure the habitat can withstand the immense pressure of the deep ocean.
We are manufacturing in a smarter way. Rather than breaking down in conventional manufacturing techniques, we're building up, much less wasteful. The energy efficiency is through the roof, and it allows new novel shapes to be produced. The applications for large form additive manufacturing, if you start thinking about rockets, if you start thinking about larger submarines, for example, this is going to be a critical unlock to make sure that we manufacture things in a smarter way, in a more intelligent way.
Vanguard and Sentinel will be ready to be deployed by 2025 and 2027 respectively. Deep says discussions are underway to pick deployment locations in Europe, the Middle East, and North America.
What we want to do is have the same impact that SpaceX had on making space sexy once again. So we're going to create, we believe very strongly, much more opportunity for that cohort of scientists, that cohort of engineers.
What do you think? Could these new technologies revolutionize underwater exploration?